It was February 2003, the start of fifth period journalism class, and the entire staff of my high school newspaper was really concerned about the price of cookies. For a mere 25 cents, all students could treat themselves to freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. And these were the good kind, big and cheap. "They're raising the price of the cookies," my buddy Mike, the sports editor, told me. "What? Why?" Mike shrugged. "That's what Vice Principal Sweetland said, going up to 50 cents soon." "Oh, man," I tossed my hands up. I mean, they already made them smaller. Now they're charging more. This was a controversial move, and we took it seriously. After all, this was the period where we stopped being various delegations of the socially awkward, maligned, and ignored, and became columnists, editors, photographers, cartoonists, and writers. This was the time of day when I stopped being just another middle-of-the-road 11th grader and became the features editor, responsible for at least 8 pages of content, ranging from human interest to arts and entertainment to special events. I wrote a column. I created layouts. I had to make decisions. And currently, one of those decisions was how to blow the lid off this cookie scandal. Mike nodded. "Alyssa's already running a news item. Front page?" I asked. Mike scoffed. "Of course, below the fold." "I think we should craft an op-ed." "Human interest," I said. "Let's get some reactions from students. Maybe we can explore the socioeconomic side. People who can't afford the extra quarter for cookies. I'll farm it to someone." "Not Vin," Mike said. "His writing's way too pedestrian for this. This needs some gravitas." I looked at Mike like he was stupid. "Vin? What am I, high? I'll give it to Steph. Steph, she killed it on that backpack expose last month." "Good call," he said. Like I said, we took this job very seriously. To be clear, it wasn't like we were cosplaying as adolescent Woodwards and Bernsteins. Our newspaper had won LA Times High School Journalism Awards. Our editors regularly got 5-figure scholarships to major UC schools. It was a sanctuary. It was a place where we were treated like adults, trusted and not talked down to. And we worked hard to produce something that we and the school could be proud of. It was my favorite class because it didn't feel like a class at all. And it was overseen by my favorite teacher, Miss Whitaker, a woman whose first in, last out philosophy was downright inspirational. She was like a second mom to me. She trusted me, and I never, ever wanted to let her down. She encouraged thoughtful conversation and teamwork. She pushed me to be better, and as a result, she was the best teacher I ever had. "Hey," Miss Whitaker chimed in, "be careful how you handle this cookie thing." But, I stuttered slightly. "The cookies are smaller, and they're charging more. It's not fair." Miss Whitaker folded her arms. "Look, I don't need VP Sweetland on us again. Let's keep focus here. The cookies are not that big of a deal. Run the news item and that's it. I don't need another parking lot controversy on my hands." That was on me. A few months earlier, I wrote a piece about the back parking lot for students that rubbed admin the wrong way. I should have been chewed out for it, but Miss Whitaker stepped up and took a bullet for me. We were regularly reminded that high schoolers do not enjoy freedom of the press, and our entire budget was dependent on funding from the higher-ups. Even though no one in journalism class would ever be considered a rebel, we were still teenagers who grew up on a steady diet of punk rock, cynical sarcasm, and general distrust of authority. Let's be clear, we were good kids who were too scared to actually do anything about it. But we prided ourselves on being slight thorns in the man's side. But I didn't want Miss Whitaker to get in trouble again, so we followed orders. With Cookiegate 03 handled, we turned our attention to the other big focus of our February issue, the Valentine's Day shoutouts. The newspaper came out on a monthly basis, so every February we'd cover the cost of an extra page by selling shoutouts at lunch. For $1, students could write messages to their friends and significant others. "How are the shout-outs going?" Miss Whitaker asked. "Good," I said. "We're getting a lot this year. We're going to have to print them in a smaller font if we want to fit them all on one page." Miss Whitaker nodded. "Nothing smaller than size 8 font, please." 8 will be a tight fit. Nothing less than 8. Remember, we're writing for non-readers, and if people see a bunch of tiny messages, they'll skip them. That's why I loved Miss Whitaker. She taught writing with real-life practicality. Good writing should be pithy, interesting, and clear, and always keep the audience in mind. Got it, I agreed. No less than 8. Every edition meant long hours. We'd stay at campus until midnight finishing the pages. When the campus was still and quiet, save for the squeaky wheels of the night cleaning crew, room 4C was alive with the hum of our huge printer, clacking of keys and scribbling of pens. It was exhausting, difficult, and dramatic, but it was also home. It was family. Another edition off to the printers, and we went home satisfied. The next week, the stacks of newspapers arrived from the publisher. We set distribution schedules. The paper always went out on Thursdays, and it was everyone's job to make sure that we put them in the hands of as many students as possible. That meant constantly having a stack of at least 20 in my backpack. It was midway through fourth period when I realized that something was wrong. The phone rang in my AP Lang and Comp teacher's classroom. The teacher, Miss Kipp, stopped mid-lecture and addressed us all in that teacher tone they usually reserve for breaking up shoving matches in the hallway. "If you have a copy of this month's school newspaper," Kipp said with surprising authority for a person who wore a lot of cardigans, "turn it into me immediately." She was not messing around, and kids knew it. Students took out the paper and surrendered them, no questions asked. Kipp eyed me from across the room. She knew I was probably packing a few dozen or so. She stood over me and did not break eye contact. "Give me all that you have, now." This made no sense. Why would Kipp, who was friends with Whitaker, suddenly go full censor board on me? I don't have any," I lied. "I gave them away already." Without looking away, she said, "Class, please note, if you see any extra copies of this month's paper, give it to a teacher or throw them out on site." After class, Mike confirmed the seizures were happening all over campus. Teachers were confiscating papers like it was bomb blueprints or something. I was pissed. "This sucks, man. I bet this is Sweetland. He's got it out for us. We should start an independent newspaper so none of these conservative VPs can say anything about it." "All right," Mike waved his hand like he was clearing a fart. "Enough with the anarchy rhetoric. Just calm down. I'm sure Whitaker will explain. I'm sure it's not that big a deal." But when we arrived at journalism class, we learned it was a big deal because Miss Whitaker was gone. All the issues were gone. The sub repeated Kipp's warning. If we had any extra copies, surrender them immediately. We were not allowed to begin working on March's issue. We were not allowed to talk about February's issue. We were not allowed to ask why you were not allowed to do those things. For the first time ever, journalism class was, well, a class. It was 52 minutes long, boring, and we were not staff, we were students. We were back to being us, back to being who we were, and we didn't have this thing to call ours. Back to being teenagers who were scared, insecure, and looking for somewhere to belong. It sucked, and maybe it was no longer time to cooperate. Maybe it was time to openly question the administration. Maybe it was time to live up to our muckraking heroes. Maybe it was time to fight back. And the next day I'm ready to raise some hell. Granted, I have absolutely no idea how to do that, but I can brainstorm and jot notes privately. Take that, authority. I march into class ready to start the revolution, and then I see Whitaker. She was crying. I'd seen teachers cry before, but usually it was a guilt trip. This was different. This was devastating. Whitaker told us what happened. She opened to the features section, my section. And there on the special Valentine's Day shout-out page, in size 8 font, midway through the 3rd column, we saw the message. "To Eric Bertram, you're such an inspiration to everyone who has AIDS. Congratulations on coming out. Love, your friends." I didn't know who Eric Bertram was, but that didn't matter because Eric didn't have AIDS and he wasn't gay. He was just a kid who some bullies decided to mess with using our paper as the delivery system. It was my responsibility to edit the pages for things like this, and I completely missed it. Eric's parents didn't. They were the ones who called the school and threatened to sue unless every last copy of the paper was destroyed. That's why Kipp demanded them. Whitaker had received a full flagellation from Sweetland. Now, not only was the issue in jeopardy, but possibly all our funding as well. I felt terrible. I didn't know this Eric kid, but I wasn't lost on me that journalism was full of kids like him, loners and losers and weirdos who just wanted what every high schooler wants, to get through the day with an ounce of pride intact. I failed to give him that. Also, I let down Whitaker. She trusted me. She gave me a voice. She took my writing and me seriously, and I messed it all up. I ruined everything. Until we got the final word from Sweetland, we didn't work on the paper. We showed up, hung around, and left. Gone was the sense of pride, agency, camaraderie. It was heartbreaking. Thankfully, Eric's parents did not sue. The newspaper was put on a much tighter leash by admin, which we deserved. Sweetland required that every page be reviewed personally by him, which was also fair. Anything to keep this from happening again. Anything so that we didn't lose the paper. Or, more importantly, Miss Whitaker. The next year, my last year of high school, I became the editor-in-chief, and Whitaker and I stayed close. We worked together to shift the focus of the paper away from reporting on cookie sizes and prices and more towards telling the stories of those students who remained unseen, those students who deserved to have their story told. We wanted to make sure we were the voice of all students, not just a mouthpiece for a group of attention-seeking, wise Alex smart kids. We wanted the entire campus to have what we had in our class during those late nights and overblown conversations, a home, a family. And we took that job very, very seriously. Thank you.
Vamp veteran Ed Farragut, everybody.